Hey yo, I'm the MMA loser and I'm back with another video. And before I start the video, watch this video at 2 times the speed so that it saves some of your time. And subscribe. Subscribe. Uh, so Dana White just recently announces that Nick Diaz and Tony Ferguson they're returning to UFC. Uh, Last time we saw Tony, he I think lost to Nick. Who did it? Who did Tony lose to? Did he lose to Bobby Green or Nick Diaz? No, Tony lost to Paddy Pimblett. Wow, I'm just forgetting Tony Ferguson fights now. I guess this is the consequence of watching a lot of Tony Ferguson fights. You end up having CTE just by watching him get CTE. Look, Tony and Nick, I think both of them, like they are way past their prime. They should just retire. They are looking really bad. Tony lost to Paddy, and Paddy is not exactly that good, but all the damage that Tony Ferguson has taken all through his career, it's just disheartening to see him this way. As a fan of this sport, as a fan of Tony Ferguson, a person who's been watching Tony Ferguson back in like 2018, 2019, Tony was a different breed, dude. Tony was a different breed. El Kukui for a reason, but now look at him. I think he's on a crazy losing streak. Let me check his. Yeah, I think he's on a what 6 fight losing streak. He's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's on a 7 fight losing streak. He lost to Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, Benilde Ruiz, Michael Chandler, Nate Diaz, Bobby Green, Paddy Pimblett. He's losing to everyone. So I think this is wrong on part of Tony Ferguson's management. I don't know if Tony Ferguson actually has a manager. I think he manages himself, knowing how weird Tony is, knowing how I don't know. I don't know what to say. But the damage that Tony has taken, I don't see anything good out of this. I don't see anything good coming out of this. So I don't know, dude. I just don't know if this is a good decision by Tony Ferguson. But he's fighting, this time he's fighting against Michael Chiesa, I believe. I think he's fighting against, yep, he's fighting against Chiesa. Again, Michael Chiesa is also on a 4 fight, 5 fight, he's on a 3 fight losing streak, but he last fought against Kevin Holland last year. And that was a really bad performance by him. He got choked out in the very first round. Imagine Kevin Holland chokes you out. A man who's known for his bad grappling chokes you out in the very first round, and you're arguably one of the best up and coming. At one point of time, Michael Chiesa was a really like he was a contender. Do you remember? He used to be a contender, but right now, I don't know. He's already 36 years old. I and kind of it kind of looks like Tony Ferguson might have an opportunity to win this fight. This is like a lose-lose situation for everybody. This is not a win-win situation for anybody. We're going to see two people who should retire. I think Michael Chiesa should also retire. So should Tony Ferguson. So watching this fight is going to be a really bad watch. But since we all like Tony Ferguson, we can probably support him. But as someone who, but on a humanitarian level, on a level as a human being, I think Tony Ferguson should just retire. He's looking really bad. But then again, who am I to tell Tony Ferguson to retire? Because he's Al Kukui. He has done this. He'll probably continue doing this as long as he has a contract. I think once his contract is done, UFC is not going to re-sign him. And yeah, he lost to Vicente Luque, Sean Brady, Kevin Holland. Like compared to all of these, Tony Ferguson is going to be his easiest opponent because Vicente Luque is a good fighter. Sean Brady, a good fighter. Kevin Holland, again, a much better fighter than Tony Ferguson. So I think Michael Chiesa can win this fight. If Michael Chiesa loses, I don't know, man. He might lose. And also, Nick Diaz is making his return. I gotta find out what's wrong with Nick Diaz. He recently got flatlined by Nick Diaz. I gotta find out where is Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz. What the hell? Nick Diaz. I don't even know why he's fighting again. I think didn't he just retire after his fight against Robbie Lawler? I think his last good fight was probably against GSP. Then of course he got screwed over by USADA in 2013. He got screwed over by USADA because I think it was in 2015, right? When after his fight against Anderson Silva, he popped for marijuana or something. He got popped for grass. Come on, can you believe it? He got popped for grass. something which you see people in America smoking every day. It's legal, and back then he got screwed over by that. Now you got people like John Jones who I don't know what kind of substances they were putting in their body, and they're still fighting in UFC. And then you got Nick Diaz who got screwed over just because he got he smoked some stuff before his fight. God knows, man. God knows. But yeah, I mean, this is also again not exactly a good fight for Nick Diaz. He's fighting against Vicente Luque, so Vicente Luque can definitely win this fight because Vicente Luque has been more active. Even though Vicente Luque got brain damage fighting against Jeff Neal, Nick Diaz is not Jeff Neal. Maybe in his prime, Nick Diaz could have beaten Jeff Neal. Who knows? Nick Diaz in his prime was a force. Nick Diaz in his prime was always a good fighter. Look at his record. He's on a crazy record, dude. He has defeated BJ Penn. He has defeated Paul Daly. He has defeated Valencia Santos, KJ Nunes, Hayato Sakurai. I mean, I don't even know who this. He defeated Frank Shamrock. Come on, Frank Shamrock, dude. Frank Shamrock. But I think this was like the older version of Frank Shamrock. It wasn't really a young Frank Shamrock. But still, you got to respect him, man. So yeah, but it's always nice to see that Nick and Nate, they're always stars. They're stars in their own right. So the UFC is kind of using him, using his star power to get fans. But let's be honest, he should retire. Let's be honest. Nick Diaz cannot win this fight against Vicente Luque. If Vicente Luque has any kind of brain cell, any fights smart, then I don't think Vicente Luque is going to lose this fight. But then again, Vicente Luque is very young. He's 32. He's technically still in his prime, but it's just that the beating that he took from what was his name? No, I think he took a bad beating from Jeff Neal. He lost to Belal. Right after that Belal loss, we could see that Vicente Luque, his health was deteriorating. He did not have any answer to Belal's pressure, Belal's grappling. Again, Belal is not exactly that great of a grappler, but still, Vicente Luque had no answer to his pace. Then against Jeff Neal, that was a horrible fight. Like he got beaten up so bad that he almost got brain damage from it. I think he actually got brain damage. Then he made his return against RDA. He won that fight. I think he did a lot of grappling in that fight and won that fight, I think, which was a good decision. Then he lost to Joaquin Buckley. Yeah, Buckley is good. Like Buckley currently in welterweight division is a force. Like he's doing really well in the welterweight division. He might become a contender in this towards the end of this year, maybe early next year. He might be in the top five, top five. What who knows? But yeah, considering Joaquin Buckley and Nick Diaz, Buckley right now is a much better fighter than Nick Diaz because Nick Diaz is old. Nick Diaz should retire. Nick Diaz in his last fight with Robbie Lawler looked trashed. He looked really bad. But yeah, I think Vicente Luque is going to win this fight. I mean, this is a short video that I wanted to make about this new announcement that are being made by Dana White regarding the return of Nick Diaz and Tony Ferguson. They're going to fight in Abu Dhabi at UFC on ABC 7 in Abu Dhabi. And I think the main event is going to be Hamza Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker, if I'm not mistaken. But it is what it is, man. It's just I think this is like a low hanging fruit that the UFC used. This is a really, I would say, cheap marketing strategy they kind of use. They're just abusing old people at this moment. So it is what it is. But again, UFC is a business organization at the end of the day. They're going to use their stars, it doesn't matter like health. But health wise, if you look, all four of the fighters fighting in this fight card should just retire. All of these, like all Vicente Luque, whether it's Vicente Luque, Nick Diaz, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chiesa, all four of them should just retire right after this fight. But knowing Tony Ferguson, I don't think he will retire. Knowing Vicente Luque, I think he will not retire. Knowing Michael Chiesa, he wants to retire. I don't think he wants to fight. I just don't think he might be a very good martial artist, but he's not a good fighter. I guess that's his problem. But it is what it is, I guess. You guys can write me in the comment section what is your opinion regarding this Tony Ferguson fight. Should Tony retire? Should Nick retire? And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like and please subscribe to the channel. I've got very few subscribers. I want to get to 2,000 subscribers before the end of this year. and peace out.